go, dude.
Let's go. Welcome back, everybody. We are here with the third episode of our weekly podcast show that we're doing now with football once again. Next week, though, we're changing it up. We haven't decided yet, but this, I promise, last week we're talking about football until next season at least. So buckle up. Here we go. We're going to hop right into the Super Bowl that was not as exciting as many hoped, at least not thoroughly. 33-9, Tampa Bay took home Lombardi for a second time in team history. Tom Brady's just absolute cementing his legacy. 7th Super Bowl. I mean, what do you guys say about the game?
Domination, man. Just across the board. I mean, up and down the whole field. Just proves. I mean, talked about the legacy of Tom Brady. Dude. He was perfect for the most part, other than that one callback of the interception and that bad flag. Other than that, he was pretty much perfect. He played amazing, man. He was 21 for 29. You know, I know we've talked a lot about efficiency out of quarterbacks, you know, versus like massive stats, and he was just efficient that whole game. Just you know, made plays when he needed to make plays. So, but as far as the game in general, man, I thought it was, you know, Tampa just brilliant coaching, great play by every player involved. They all did what they needed to do.
Hell yeah, man.
They just played a great game.
They did for sure. Kind of running down some stats here quick. Super Bowl stuff. So Kansas City, this was their 4th Super Bowl. Losing in the first one, winning the 4th one, winning last year and losing this year. Tampa Bay, this is their 2nd win since, and you know, the first obviously since 37 and 02. That was behind that first year Gruden offense. For whatever reason, nobody could figure that out until, well, the year after. Patrick Mahomes versus Brady stats. I mean, I really don't even need to go over this, but Brady going into that game was 33-11 just in playoffs. 33-11 in games. 34-11 now, obviously. 7-3 in Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes 1-1. You think Patrick has the ability, or can, or will he get to Tom Brady's status? Be able to run that record down of 7-3? No?
I don't think so. I don't think anybody's ever going to run that down, man. I think we talked about a little bit that, you know, Tom Brady's played in 50% of the Super Bowls he's ever been available to play in his career, and 18% of the Super Bowls ever.
Well, right now,
Super Bowls ever existing, 18% of them he's played in. 18% of them. That's insane, man. And for Mahomes to do that, he'd have to play till he's in his 40s, and then win some, you know. And I know he's lost one, but to do that, he'd have to stay healthy. And for a mobile quarterback, the way he plays, I don't know, man. It's going to be hard. And then the way that offensive line got destroyed, and they're going to have to make. I know there was a lot of injuries. I know they dealt with some problems, but I don't know if he'll ever get to that point.
I don't know, man. I mean, you talk about how brilliant, you know, you brought up the 50% on Tom Brady. Well, even if you include Mahomes' rookie year, which he only played one game and didn't play the postseason, he's still 50% right now. He's 2 for 4. So I think there's a chance. The hard part is going to be what play like is going to be after his second half of his career, because they talk about Tom Brady's first half and second half. Big thing with Tom Brady is that he still had the same coach. Second half career, I don't see Andy Reid coaching that much longer. He's already, I got him down here somewhere. 62. Yeah, he's already 62, man. And that's up there. I mean, 10 years at the most, I would say. Bruce Arians just was the oldest head coach to win a Super Bowl. Not the oldest coach, but the oldest to win at 68. So,
yeah, I don't know.
It's going to be tough. I definitely do think Mahomes has a chance at it. Way he plays the ball, I think he needs to take I know he's taken lots. He's even said it multiple times that he's taken a lot of notes out of Aaron Rodgers' book, but he's gonna have to work on keeping them legs healthy, man.
Yeah.
That was something Rodgers dealt with in the early teens after the Super Bowl. He was dealing with a couple injuries, couple calf injuries, stuff like that. So hopefully he can make a comeback. Keep winning and making Super Bowls, man. I think he can definitely do that. Tampa Bay was the 7th wild card team to ever win a Super Bowl, so that was pretty cool. I mean, they were definitely. I would obviously, even before they won the Super Bowl, I would have ranked them one of the best wild card teams ever. Anyways, it just happened they had the Saints also in their division, and they were pretty dominant in the regular season, man.
Yeah.
If Kansas City would have won the Super Bowl, they would have been the 9th team to ever win back-to-back Super Bowls. Obviously failing to do that. Let's take a second. I want to talk Andy Reid versus Bruce Arians. Andy Reid obviously been a head coach for a very long time, long stint with Philly, and now he's been with KC for a good amount of years. He's compiled a 221, 131, and 1 tie record versus Bruce Arians' 67 wins, 44 losses, and 1 tie. But major stat coming is Andy Reid's playoffs, which now he's 17-16, which is a bit rough, but I mean that means he's made the playoffs now 16 years out of his 22 years coaching, which you gotta give credit's due, man, to be able to do that and be able to have that many winning teams. I mean, that's why he's still coaching. That's why he's still considered a great coach. Not one of the best, but one of the greats. He's number 6 all-time wins behind Curley right now in coaching. Back to Bruce Arians. His playoff record now. Now he's only been coaching 8 years now. He took over a while back for Indianapolis as an interim head coach. Coached them to, I think, a 10-3 record. But ended up going to Arizona. Signed with them full time. You know how that kind of went. He had a bit of a run with Palmer and stuff, but couldn't really get anything going. Went to retirement. Was in the broadcast booth for a year. Came back to Tampa Bay last year. Coached them to a 7-9 record? Yeah,
I'm not sure.
7-9 record, number 3 offense in points last year before they brought Tom Brady. So you knew that offense was already great, and they already brought in all these weapons. Their defense is what was a major flip this past year.
Yeah,
you got to give it up to their DC for turning that around. They got so many young guys on that defense too. It's crazy. I was looking at it, especially corners and safeties. I mean, they got guys in their first, second, third year just making plays in the Super Bowl. That's crazy good. As I said, I think I was saying Bruce Arians is 6-2 in the playoffs. Obviously, 4 of those wins coming just this year. So before that, he was just 2-2, but hasn't been coaching as long as Andy Reid. And obviously, he's a great coach. Not considered one of the best. It's gonna be hard to consider him one of the best. Even when he does finally call it quits, just because he hasn't coached at the head coach position as long. He did coach as an offensive coordinator for quite a long time, but head coaching in there is gonna be tough. You think? I have a question here. You think Andy Reid, obviously Hall of Fame coach, regardless, right? Bruce Arians, what do you think about his Hall of Fame potential?
I don't know, man. I was gonna bring this up later. The Hall of Fame stuff.
Well, we just cover Bruce Arians right now. We'll dip into
I have
that later.
a hard time. Yeah, maybe, probably not. You know what I mean? I just don't see.
Do you think I should reword that. Do you think he deserves to make the Hall of Fame?
No.
Okay.
I'm with Deion Sanders on the whole Hall of Fame stuff, man. I feel like the Hall of Fame should be people who made a really big impact to the game, like a really powerful impact, and even with Andy Reid, it's still, you got to look at the teams that he coached. Those teams had some incredible talent on those teams. Yeah, you got to be a great coach to coach the talent, but you still got a lot of talent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you
win
could say that for any coach. I mean, look at Coach Belichick. Even this year, we consider him one of the greatest, if not the greatest coach.
Mhm.
And despite how bad
Not a
this
lot of talent
roster
on the team, though.
was, he still was able to coach them to 8-8 record, which
Right.
I think was great.
But
And
Belichick is going to be one of the best coaches of all time.
yeah, but what I'm saying is, I don't think I wrote it down, but out of his 22 years coaching, Andy Reid has only had a handful of losing seasons.
Yeah, but he's also had a lot of really good teams, like talented teams, like a lot of high talented teams.
Say that, but Belichick has had Tom Brady practically his whole career.
But not a lot of talent on those teams. Just Tom Brady. There's not been a whole.
I don't know about that.
Not a whole other. What other superstars were on those teams on those years, other than some of the defensive players that were on some of those teams, especially those early years? Those early years, there had a lot of defensive powers on those teams.
Randy Moss.
But offensive powers, there was. Tom Brady had nobody.
Moss.
1 year, and they didn't win the Super Bowl.
They had one incredible fucking year.
But they didn't win the Super Bowl, and
he's had Gronk for quite a time, and even before that, he had guys Wes Welker
They didn't have incredible blowout talent, you know what I mean? But Belichick still put together a hell of a run. Look at McCarthy. McCarthy lucked out. McCarthy's one of the worst coaches ever, and that guy has lucked out his entire career to be on teams with incredible talent, and he's screwing the pooch in Dallas. You know what I mean? Just it's going to be insane. He's going to coach shit because you could give a way better coach that position and they'd be a great team because there's so much talent down there. It's just insane. So I don't know. It's hard. I like Andy Reid. I think Andy Reid's a hell of a coach. I think he definitely could make the Hall of Fame. He probably will make the Hall of Fame.
Do you think he deserves to make the Hall of Fame?
Sure, based on his career and what he's done, a couple of Super Bowls, and what he's done, just the longevity, how long he's been doing it, the records, what he has, for sure, he'll definitely make it. But I mean, he's had a lot of really good players to help him along the way, and that some of that stuff needs to be looked at along with it. I mean, sure. You look at that Tampa Bay team. That Tampa Bay team is full of players that are ring chasing, which is, once again, whatever, it is what it is. But there's a lot of talent on that team, man. Yeah. It's full of studs up and down the board. It's crazy. But so was Kansas City, and they still fell short. Once again, we can get into that in a second, how bad, how much the injuries had to play with that offensive line, having to shovel some stuff around and move. That offensive line got blown up.
That, and we still got to talk about how good this Tampa Bay defense is, man. Taking advantage, you saw it against the Packers, how they were able to take advantage of our tackles, and they did even better work against this even more hurt and worse offensive line that Kansas City has. And this was really the big game changer, I think. I think it was even bigger. The penalties were pretty big. Kansas City had 11 penalties for 120 yards versus Tampa's 4 penalties for 39 yards. But even so,
yeah, we can get into that. Let's talk about the offensive line right now. Let's do that. We can talk about the offensive line. And Mahomes was rushed. He was hurried 27 times. Like, I think that was the stat that I read earlier. It was like he was hurried 27 times on his dropbacks. So that's insane. How are you supposed to do anything? And he still made plays. And I mean, that's credit to Mahomes. He's super talented. I know I've talked about before.
Yeah. I got here that he was pressured 20 times, which is still great. I'm sure he was hurried different.
Hurried's different. Yeah, it's different.
But pressured 20 times. He was hit 6 times, sacked 3 times.
Yeah. So you just
versus Tom Brady, who was only pressured 5 times.
Yeah. No pressure, and we talked about that in the leading up to the Green Bay Tampa game. Tom Brady is a guy you have to get at, you have to touch him, but he's But once again, he's able to sit in the pocket and he's able to pick apart the team. Where Mahomes, he wasn't able to do anything, and they made him run the whole game. He was just, I was blown away by how much they were able just to make him run for his life that entire game.
Oh my God, they clobbered
I couldn't
that
imagine.
offensive line, man. Clobbered it.
I couldn't believe it. It was absolutely insane to see that happening. Every time it was just hike, and then by the time he'd catch the ball, they were past them already, and I was just blown away by how quickly they got to him. So it was crazy stuff. But yeah, it was nuts, man. It was some stuff. Now, you talk about the officiating. We talked about it beforehand, leading up to the game, how I wanted it to let them play. I don't feel like they did that at all. I don't think a lot of the penalties were bad.
No.
But I still think that majority of them were stupid.
Yeah. Obviously, this is a different officiating crew than the Packers Tampa had, but I still feel like they could have taken a note out of their book and just, it's a Super Bowl, man. There shouldn't be more than, those 15 penalties called in this game. There shouldn't be more than 10.
The interception one that Tom Brady threw,
was tough.
That was one of the worst flags I've seen in a Super Bowl in my entire life. I don't know how you throw that when I could have picked out at least a half a dozen more later in that game that weren't thrown, that were probably worse on other receivers, that were a holding call.
Yeah.
But you decide to throw it then and there, and then that's where you get fans of the sport that talk about the favoritism towards players like Tom Brady. And you're like, well, look, because he threw a pick that all of a sudden that flag comes flying out. Why? Why at that moment does that flag come out on that tacky? That's a horrible call.
Yeah, but especially when it wasn't.
Weird.
And that wasn't even the receiver he threw at, right?
No, it was a completely different one. Yeah.
So no, that shouldn't have been called.
Yeah, they need to just. It's just one of those ones where I feel like
it was on third down too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Third down.
It was.
Well, he intercepted it anyways, but
anyway, yeah. And it's a great defensive play, and it's still at that time it's a close game, right? Because I think it's 7-3 at that point. Yeah. And you talk about momentum, and there's a lot of stuff that can happen. I don't know if it changes the outcome of the game because that offensive line still gets blown up the rest of that game. So, but you still talk about defensive momentum, things like that could have helped that defense gather some confidence throughout the rest of that game, and they could have gathered some momentum. But with doing that, I think it got into their heads like, well, now what do we do? And then now it goes up 14, and then it was just a it was over after that. In my opinion, it was you seen the life just drain out of them after that touchdown. It was just horrible. And then they called one, I think, in the end zone right there, where he ran a route and he ran into Matthew. And I hate that flag from the wide receiver running into the defensive back, because all he's doing is watching the wide receiver. He's trying to cover, and he can't. I don't see how that's pass interference when the ball's uncatchable. It's a weird flag.
So I agree with half of that, but the problem is, so I agree. Either way, I don't think that. There's part of that play I think should have been called. The other part I don't think. I think when it's tough, but so I think it would have been called catchable. My point is, I think it would have been catchable if he wouldn't have ran into him. But I think that should have been allowed, is what I'm getting to. The catchable part or non-catchable part, I think it would have been catchable, again, if he was able to run his route. But I still disagree with the flag. I don't think it should have been thrown.
That's the thing is just, what is the defensive back supposed to do? He's got to play his position, right? He's in position to play, and you're penalizing him for playing the game at that point. He didn't purposely tackle him or run into him. He's trying to run the route to make his coverage, and you flag him for it. And that's my problem with the game. That's why I've talked about it, for the last couple of years. That's why I don't watch full games for the most part, because I can't, because flags like that ruin the game for me to watch, because it's just it doesn't make sense. So I just, as a whole, and then some of the holdings, the game's over. They're down by 22 points, and they're throwing holding penalties.
Yeah.
Like, and there's like 2 minutes left in the game. Why? Why are we doing this? Why are we delaying this game any more than we need to? Why are we
Yeah.
why are we throwing flags when there's 2 minutes to go and this game is out of reach? Like, just let's go. Let's just get this over with. Let's speed this up here. It's stuff like that. Like stuff like that's just it irritates and it's just a little crazy and it's just refs. They want to throw it. They
Yeah.
can't keep their hands out of their pockets. So. But I don't think it would have had an overall difference because some of them it was their fault. How do you line up offsides on a field goal kick?
Yeah,
That's
you
your
could
fault.
see that. I mean, on both
That's your
sides
fault.
of that line, you could tell.
You could have called it on any of them. Yeah, it's
That's ridiculous. The line does not do that. I mean, anybody should know that. I don't care what kind of edge you're trying to get, but
yeah it's and like I said,
insult to
it
injury.
doesn't stop
Basically.
Mahomes from running for his life the whole game,
No.
and they still couldn't rush the ball at all. So it didn't stop. None of that stops the game. I don't think it changes the game from what would have happened. So, but yeah, I mean, they still had hell of a game. I mean, Gronk 2 touchdowns. I was still had
He was the MVP of that first half, dude, for sure.
he
Between
was all
blocking and
over us.
catching touchdowns, man.
Yeah.
Dude, if they would have kept going to him all game, man, he definitely would have got the MVP. Same, in that second half, kind of towards the end of that first half and the beginning of that second half, Fournette was having an amazing game as well. That last quarter they went to Jones, man. Did you feel like, I felt it just a little bit. Did you feel like they kind of rolled back just to, you could say they just wanted to get Jones involved a little more or maybe change it up, or you could say it was so there was a clear-cut winner that Tom Brady would get that MVP.
Yeah, I think he had it. I don't know, man. It was pretty much. I think at that point it probably sewed up for him. Because he didn't throw for a lot of yards.
No, he only threw 201.
201 yards, right?
And he got that right at the end of the game when they were trying to run the clock out before. Yeah, he got an extra 10 yards or something.
I don't think he really could have done anything that he wouldn't have won it. You know what I mean? Even if Fournette would have went over 100 yards, I don't think, because he was close, right? 89 yards.
Yeah.
In the TD. I still don't think that if he would have gotten 2, maybe, and he would have went over 100.
Another touchdown, you're saying?
Yeah, but even then, yeah, they would have still given it to Tom Brady. Running backs don't win MVPs, man.
That was like, I had a big problem, when they won years ago with James White. England had James White, and James White had an incredible Super Bowl game. They gave the MVP to Tom Brady, man. It's tough, man. It's tough.
Quarterbacks always win. They get the glory, but they also get all the blame too. If they look at Mahomes, right? Mahomes is getting a lot of, the offensive line is getting blamed, but you look at an ESPN, he's on the cover. Mahomes on the cover of everything, right? Okay. And it's quarterbacks. Look at Packers, right? Rodgers is getting the blame for everything. So quarterbacks, they get all the glory, but they get all the blame. So,
yep.
It's part of the position, and no matter what you're going to do. Yeah, I mean, as far as the game, I don't know if there's anything else you got to touch on it as far as
I wanted to ask you, what did you think about the Vince Lombardi thing, the speech? A couple times they had up there. You see that at all?
I don't think I've seen that.
No, they had him right before the beginning of the game and towards the end. I don't think it was quite after the game. I think it was near the end. But, yeah, they had like a what I initially thought was, kind of like what they did with Luke Skywalker and all that. They put the face, CGI'd it or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Well, actually, they ended up having a actor do it, which was weird. I would have rather, it's always kind of weird bringing back somebody. You have to look the clip up after this, but it was weird. I liked the speech. I didn't like exactly how they portrayed it, but it was a pretty cool moment. My grandfather, who watched football back then, he said it didn't look like him, it didn't sound like him, so it wasn't a big effect on someone like that. So, but I think it was cool. I just don't think they executed it to perfection. As far as commercials go, commercials always a big thing in Super Bowl. There weren't too much. I thought the Paramount Plus ones were all right. They were kind of funny, But other than that, usually there's a pretty good Budweiser one in there. I didn't care for theirs, or there's some other ones.
I think Budweiser had I think they had one of them that I didn't mind. There was like I think it was more of like an emotional one. I can't remember which one it was, but it was like a Bud one. It wasn't bad. I think it was a little bit. It was a decent one. But yeah, commercials. I had here in my notes that commercials are ranked to C plus.
C plus.
I wasn't very. I didn't. I laughed my ass off at the Michael B. Jordan one, the Alexa. I don't know if you see one.
Yeah, that was not too bad.
She's in the bathtub. I laughed my ass off. I was cracking. Me and Rebecca were dying. So,
Okay.
but overall, I didn't think that they were that great, but there was some okay ones, and we got some of them.
And then the thing that most people watch the Super Bowl for, maybe not most, a good majority, is the halftime show. For whatever reason, people like to tune in on that fun stuff.
The Weeknd here
has been rough for the past few years. This one was no exception, man. This a bit of a disappointment. I thought they could do better. I'm always fine. The past years people have always haven't liked who they've picked. I've been fine with it. They always pick the most usually who's the most popular at that time. People always talk about bringing back AC/DC or all these old school, but they brought those guys in because that was the thing back then. That was the most popular music. Now this is the most popular music, so fucking deal with it. But that being said, that whole when it was just him and the camera doing whatever the fuck he was doing. Who the fuck thought that was a good idea? That's what I want to know.
He was like lost, and it was like when you're a child and you're lost in the store looking for your mom. Like that's the camera angle, and it's like you're trying to find. Dude, it was bad, dude. I thought I was gonna have a seizure, man. I didn't know what was gonna happen. It was horrible, man. Look, and I like the Weeknd, right?
I like his music. He's fine.
I like his music. It's hard to sing live, and it's hard to do that performance and do it right.
Yeah, unless you go to concerts enough and all the other stuff, that stuff does not sound like what it sounds like on your CD, on whatever you're listening to. It's never that good. Nobody ever does it like that. So it's always getting criticism. I feel like that way, but singing wise, I guess I didn't have much of a problem, but
Tail, it's I don't know. It wasn't
great though. It
wasn't the worst one I can remember, but it also wasn't the best, right? And it was weird, man. I thought all the people looked like they had jock straps on their head.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
I get, wear the mask, cool, right? Wear a fucking mask, but like, it was like it looked like jock straps, and it was weird, man, because it was like, especially like the lace toppings and stuff. It was just a little weird, and it just I couldn't get that image out of my head for the rest of the time. And all I kept seeing is like now the Weeknd's playing, and then I had Letterkenny references playing through my head for the rest of this time. And it was just messing with my head for the rest of it. So yeah, that's like it didn't help. So,
yeah. Okay. I think that wraps up the Super Bowl. You got anything else to add?
Nah, it was meh. The whole thing, the whole Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Meh.
I mean, obviously our predictions were way off. I think I was
way off.
I think I was 35 and 32 or something.
41 and 35.
You had 41 and 35. Kansas City Chiefs were off 32 points.
Way off, man. But I would have never thought that offensive line would have got blown up like that. It was horrible. It was destroyed.
I didn't even realize they lost Fisher. I didn't even realize they lost him.
Yeah, I didn't.
That kind of comes down, again, we talked about how we didn't watch that game, that Tennessee game, because, the whole Packer thing, and that kind of bit us in the butt there a bit, so.
Yeah,
overall,
good for Tom, dude. He's the GOAT, dude.
Congrats to Tom. He's the GOAT. Greatest of all time in football.
GOAT, dude.
That leads us into the next topic I want to talk about. Greatest of all time athlete. A lot of people have been saying Tom Brady, since this win. As the greatest, he's the greatest of football, obviously. Is he greater in the sense of being better than Jordan? Is he greater in the sense of being better than Woods or other golf players? Is he better since Serena Williams, which is, in my case, I think she is the greatest of all time. I know you're a bit of a tennis fan. I don't know how big of a tennis fan you are,
Yeah, I like tennis a
but
lot. I don't know, Serena's a monster, man. She's
what she's
dominant.
been able to dominate, as much as she's been able to dominate throughout her career in tennis, I think she dominated better than, it's obviously, and it's easier and it's harder because it's not a team sport, but also because it's not a team sport. You
Better it's
know,
not a sport. Yeah,
yeah, it's both ways. I'm saying, it's
yeah,
easier because it's not a team sport, harder because it's not a team sport.
yeah.
So, in my regard, as greatest of all time athlete, I think Serena has been there for a little bit now and is still there, even with Tom Brady winning his 7th Super Bowl, which is still, crazy.
I wouldn't put Serena as high. I think she's definitely in the conversation, is up there. It's
Yeah, no
just a
problem.
competition she hasn't faced is she faces really good at the peak, but as far as like overall throughout like every matchups, there's just not as many great players she has to play against. But longevity wise, she's just dominant. You know what I mean? She's
For
definitely
sure.
one of the best athletes of
Yeah.
all time.
For
Period.
for people that don't know much about her, this is her career record is 848 wins to 147 losses. That's an
Yeah,
85% win.
yeah.
That is
But that goes
85%. No one
exactly what I'm
else.
talking
No one
about.
else is there at that 85%, which
Yeah.
is, I mean,
and
that's
that's
just
the
crazy.
and that's the hard part a lot with a lot of female sports, right? There's a lot of them that I don't know. You don't watch much MMA, but with MMA, there's a lag in like talent. So like somebody great will come along, and then the talent will catch up, right? And then the talent will catch up, and like so Ronda Rousey, right? Ronda Rousey came along, she dominated, then the talent caught up,
Yep.
and like Amanda Nunes is now just dominating, and eventually the talent will catch up.
Yeah,
And
for
that's
sure.
how it is with most sports, right? Eventually the talent catches up and things like that. And with Serena, she's just been able to stay dominant
Yeah.
for last what
Forever.
20 years. So that's why you could argue that she's one of the better athletes of all time. And as far as like, I mean, definitely
Yeah.
Jordan, it's just hard because when you talk about like the best athlete, you can't compare sports because Jordan can't play tennis. You know what I mean? And Jordan
Well,
can't play
well,
other
neither.
sports.
Well,
And Tom
Williams.
Brady
Well,
can't
you can
play
say
that.
that. I mean, okay, I see where you're coming from, but so you're saying because of that, you can't make an accurate. You think you can't make an accurate assumption on who would be that greatest of all time athlete?
No, not really, because which one of them can run a triathlon? You know what I mean? Which one's the best triathlon runner? Because that's a hell of an
Well,
athletic
that would
achievement.
probably be some triathlon, guy that's
Right. So that's
a
what I
girl
mean.
that's
So
been.
I don't know who the best triathlon runner is. I follow Hunter Cameron Haynes who runs ultra marathons, and there's a chick. She's I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she's won some ultra marathons, 300-mile races and shit. And she's done it in like a day. So it's you get
I
some of these
think.
people like who's the best athlete. It's really
Well, okay,
it's really
I
hard
I
to
can see. Okay, maybe I made a mistake on using the word athlete. Then
yeah.
I'm saying, who is the
It's like
greatest of
professional
all time
sports.
of their particular thing that they do? Who's the greatest of all time and what they do? Better than everybody else. Comparatively, Serena with tennis, Tom Brady with football, Michael Jordan with basketball.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard, man. Because we're gonna talk about because we talk about that because then we go into that like if you talk about like who's the greatest football player of all time, we talk about that like Tom's the goat, right? Like
Yeah,
I don't mean because you could talk about a bunch of stuff because like Peyton Manning might have been the smartest and the best quarterback to ever play the position, right? But was he the greatest? He doesn't have as many rings, right? He didn't. But you watch those two guys play the position, and I
yeah,
could argue that Peyton Manning is by far the superior quarterback. By just watching them play. But when it came down to crunch time, right? When it comes to crunch time, who's the better quarterback? And it's hard. But if you watch them play, like over the years, and you watch the stats and you look at stats and you watch them play, it's Peyton Manning is a hell of a quarterback. The dude is just brilliant reading defenses and picking people apart and doing things. It's hard, but Tom Brady's the GOAT, man. The dude is by far the best at football right
okay.
now.
Now you make a great point. Now, can you do that same argument, but with Serena Williams and someone else? I don't think you can, which is why I think Serena Williams is ahead.
For tennis?
Yeah.
But could she?
And then, Jordan and LeBron
So
has that big debate,
the problem with Serena, all right, so I have one argument with it.
Okay.
Serena plays 10 matches against Roger Federer. She loses 10 matches against Roger Federer.
Yeah.
That's my only argument with it. I love Serena. Serena's dominant in tennis. You know what I mean? But Roger Federer is Roger fucking Federer, man. That dude has been dominant almost his entire career also.
Yeah.
So his records are pretty incredible too. So he's barely lost, and he's beat studs his whole career. Just some of the best tennis players to ever play the game. So it's hard. I can make the argument that Federer is the better tennis player. You know what I mean? Just because of the people he's beaten. Just like Tom Brady. Tom Brady beat a lot of great quarterbacks in his career to get to Super Bowls to cement his legacy, and then beating them in the Super Bowl to cement the legacy. Another one again, right? This past weekend, he beat, even though they don't play 1-on-1, technically he still beats Mahomes. And
yeah, that'll always be on Mahomes' record, which will
right.
be, even if Mahomes gets, the announcers, Tony Romo and what's his name? They brought up a good point. Even if somehow Mahomes gets to that magical 7th win, he's still going to need to go that step farther and get that 8th one because he lost one to Tom Brady. So the 7-7 the tiebreaker would always go to Tom Brady. So,
and it's hard because and we were talking a little bit earlier, will Mahomes ever do it? I don't know, man, because it's going to be hard for Mahomes to get back because the AFC is tough. It's getting stronger every year. And now he's going to have to beat that Bills team, which is just getting stronger, and, Lamar's not going anywhere, right? So you get some of these guys, those teams are getting better and better every year, and he's going to have a tougher and tougher time. Like, talking about Andy Reid's not getting any younger, right? So
yeah.
It's not like he doesn't have something that might not take the place, right? And
yeah.
The team's probably not going to change a whole lot, so.
No.
But, I don't know. In best athlete of all time, it's hard, right? Because
for sure.
Deion Sanders played 2 sports, right? So did Bo, right? Bo played 2 sports and dominated in both of them. Yeah. So I mean, you could argue a lot of it. That yes, there's people out there for best athletes. If you want to go to that route and best athlete of all time, and I mean, I don't think championships and rings could make the argument for who's the best at it because Bo Jackson was dominant at both sports he played, and he was a professional athlete at both those sports.
Yeah.
And he was not only a professional, he was dominant in both of them. And so was Deion Sanders, right? If Deion would have concentrated all of his power into baseball, he would have been one of the best baseball players to ever do it. And he was still super dominant in the NFL. And how much did he even really care? He had the attitude of, I'm just not giving a shit.
So, yeah, but I feel like because he had that attitude, that takes away from him just a bit,
Sure.
For sure. Regardless if he would have got more stats or not, because,
Yeah. Prime time, man. He was all about that attitude. What do you think it's Serena then? You seem like you're arguing a lot for just because of
for sure. Maybe we can do a more major time, maybe do a little more research and really try to get to a point where we can, either come to a stalemate or come to an agreement. Either way, it'd be fun to do for sure. But yeah, I think right now, as what I have looked at, between the three, at least the 3 that I've talked about between Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, and Serena. I think out of those 3, I think Serena takes the glove between them. So, but yeah, maybe we can argue that again another time. I can't wait till our LeBron Michael Jordan argument. So we'll get to that another time too. So. Anyways, on to the most interesting season of NFL I think we've ever had. At least I've watched. I haven't watched as many as most, but they talked about basketball last year on, people putting an asterisk on that championship and how much bullshit I think that is. Obviously no one's talking about an asterisk here, but it was a tough time. America and the world in general, everybody felt some sort of effect regardless. And football was no different. Having games moved. This was the first time in NFL history that a game was held on every single day of the week, which pretty cool. Also, one of the lowest attendances we've ever had.
Yeah.
Not by choice. A lot of quiet football teams. You heard players talk about all season how weird it was, how different it was. My question for you is, how big of a difference do you think that crowd not really being there made for all these football teams and all these players? Do you think a lot of players, or maybe fewer, played different? Do you think defenses weren't able to hype themselves up? Do you think offenses weren't able to hype themselves up as much as they would be able to with a crowd behind them? And just anything else you think of on this COVID year?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be difficult. You've played especially for the guys I feel like that have, been playing for a while. Especially some of the guys that have played in colleges too. You play your whole career in front of a lot of people. You're used to the noise and that background. That it's almost like a white noise, right? You're constantly hearing that. So you got to be used to it, right? So to not have it and have this silence in the crowd, and then almost not having the people there, it had to affect a little bit of something. I'm sure that some people had to do something, but I bet to an extent, once a few games got going, it probably just went away. Because then you have to get used to it, right? Because you're concentrated on the things that are in front of you and then what's happening and stuff. The weird one had to be for the teams like Green Bay. For most of the year, there was nobody there. And it was like the last few games, all of a sudden, fans. And they're banging signs and they're doing stuff. And that had to be a little bit different to all of a sudden having no fans to fans. Has to be a little bit. Because I know Rodgers talked about it on Pat McAfee's show, that it was nice to actually have some people in the crowd chanting and yelling and some support. And it felt good to have some people back in the crowd again, just to have a little bit of positivity, and you get some momentum and things like that. So,
how about Baltimore versus Pittsburgh on a Wednesday night? What do you think of that game? I don't know if you remember anything about it. It wasn't really any different. Obviously, preparation is always a big thing going into games. How do you think those players, had to? What do you think those players had to go to get themselves ready for Wednesday night game? Even though it's only a day off of a Thursday night game, even those Thursday night games they had, even before this year, they had always talked about how kind of different and weird those were, and how I think a decent amount of players would rather not have to play on a Thursday night.
Oh, dude, it's your job, man. It's their job. For me, there shouldn't be an excuse, or there shouldn't be any reason why they can't be ready, or they shouldn't be ready, right? So they have all the mental capacity to get done, to get ready to go, even if they played on a Sunday or they didn't play on a Sunday, to get ready to go that Wednesday. Play the damn game, right? And get up and go and do what you got to do. And it's going to be a little rough, right? You're going to be tired. It's going to suck, right? Because you just played physical game. But I mean, even if you didn't, then you got to stop and play again, and it's gonna be weird. But I don't see how it could affect you that much when you're an athlete of that caliber. You already have a high mental capacity for pain. You already got a good work ethic and discipline, right? Because you're already physically fit. You do already all this other stuff to keep your body in shape, and so stuff like that they're already professionals. So to me, changing things like that shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Talk about some little things here. Alex Smith's return. Dude, almost 700 days from playing a game in an NFL season. I mean, surgery after surgery. Even for some, it looked bad on the field, but you never thought it'd be something like that. I mean, he was probably hours away from losing that leg.
I think they said he was going to die, right? I mean, they thought
there was a chance. I think that was maybe blown up a little more. But I mean, yeah, there's always risk with doing surgery of any caliber. But yeah, no, there was definitely a chance, that could have happened. For him to come back, he started in 6 games, played in 8. In those games that he started, Washington went 5-1. I mean, that's just, his stats aren't great, but it's just it's great to see.
Yeah.
Alex Smith, you think he'll be a starting quarterback next year?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see him give it a shot. I don't see him wherever, whatever he does. It just, I don't see why anybody wouldn't give him a chance.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it just to do what he did, man. I mean, I followed that guy a lot in his career because, he drafted the same year as Rodgers, right? So that was always that year, because...
Oh, yeah, everybody, every time Rodgers and Smith would face off each other, that was always the tagline. Doesn't matter if it was the first time they faced off. Doesn't matter if it was, whenever the last time they faced off. That was the storyline every time, so...
Yeah. See, I've always liked the guy, man. I've never had anything bad about him, dude. I always thought he was a good football player. He's had a rough career because he's played in some rough situations, and he's still gotten close. And he's won some games. He's almost won a Super Bowl, so he's gotten close. So it went to San Francisco, right?
I'm pretty sure they had Kaepernick that year, didn't they?
Was that Kaepernick? I thought wasn't he backup though?
He might have been a backup, but I wouldn't count that. No. I mean,
and still almost wins one, man. I don't care if you're third string, you're sitting on the bench, you still get a ring, man. You could be a goddamn water boy, you still get a ring, man.
That's like picking out some of those, Boston Celtic guys that that were carried by Bill Russell that's got like 8 rings because Bill Russell carried them to that. Yeah. They did fucking jack shit. It's like, I got 8 rings. I got more than Tom Brady.
I got a ring, man.
Also with that Washington team, Ron Rivera obviously beating cancer is always good to see.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think? Man, I'm doing this on the fly, but I want to talk about him. They brought in Washington for the playoff team. Obviously, sadly, Alex Smith, COVID reasons, couldn't play in their playoff game, even though they had Taylor. I'm gonna butcher his name. Heinicke play. He played a great game for. They brought him in. He played for that other league. Oh, I forgot what it was called.
Played in the XFL, right?
Yep. There we go. XFL came in.
Yeah, dude. And he had an amazing game.
Yeah. They played Tampa, didn't they?
Yeah, they played Tampa.
They had a closer shot at beating him than Kansas City did.
Yeah, they almost won. No, me and my brother talked about that game extensively that next day, how amazing he played. And that's not the only game he played like that. There was other games that throughout that year he played that way. The kid's got the stuff, man. He just wants to win, so.
He ended up, after this season, he ended up signing a 2-year deal with Washington. So we'll hopefully be seeing more of him.
Yeah, I like him, man. I mean, and a lot of the players in that team like him too. So, I mean,
finally get a leader that Washington hasn't seen in a very long time.
I mean, for a guy to play like that, with nothing to lose and just freaking full send that.
Put it all out there, man. I mean, that's always fun to see, man.
Great game,
it's crazy how well you can tell when a guy is trying or not. You know, and to have watched him being able to do what he was able to against that Tampa Bay defense. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they played harder against Mahomes, but still, I mean.
Yeah. Well, last game of the year, right? You don't got to worry about injuries and stuff. You go like Pat McAfee's talking about. Everybody that game goes all out, but
full send, yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, dude. Great game by that guy, dude. The kid, dude, it's just insane. So.
Okay. Another quarterback, kind of, that played a single game this year. Wide receiver Kendall Hinton. And the situation he was put through. If you don't know, Kendall was the wide receiver the Broncos brought up to play quarterback for a game. He was not put in a situation to win either. I hated their game plan. They treated him as a NFL quarterback, the offensive coordinator of Broncos. I'm saying, they should have had a more. It should have been a lot more run focus. It should have been
right.
Yeah, more wildcat stuff. Anything different. Obviously, when you don't have a quarterback, you gotta.
I don't know what I know what game you're talking about. It's. I don't know, dude.
To have that guy be throwing passes, trying to give him, have him throw passes 20, 30 yards down the field, like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you not setting up screens? Why are you not setting up short, easy passes underneath? Like, anything.
I don't know, man. Some people are, I don't know. I think they just lose. They just don't mail it in. They're just out there like, let's just see what happens. Well, we're making $100,000. I don't give a shit. We're just gonna see it out here.
Yeah. Well, he's got I got here written down. They should have played a rugby style game.
Yeah. Why not, right?
For sure,
At that point, just line up the scrum and go for it.
You get 10 guys in front of a guy that has the ball. You tell those 10 guys to run through everybody and have the guy with the ball just keep going. I mean,
get the biggest guys out that you have out on the field and hand the ball off to one of the bigger.
They know you're going to run. Yeah. That's all right. You're going to run through them. That's kind of mentality. That's kind of the Tennessee thing. They know he's going to get, more than half the players are going running, over there, but he's still able to carry over 5.5 yards a game, and that's just it's testament to that offensive line and Derrick Henry. So
Derrick Henry, the freaking man. That dude's a.
We'll get a little more into him in just a little bit here. I want to talk about a couple more things. Okay, talking about Tom Brady's legacy. A couple rookies here I want to talk about. First off, being Justin Herbert. And the amazing season he had for a rookie. It was tough. I really wanted Justin Jefferson, wide receiver for Vikings, even though he plays for the Vikings. He had an amazing year, especially for a wide receiver in his first year. No first-year wide receiver did what he does. Antonio Brown, Devontae Adams, top guys even this year. Tyreek Hill, they did not have seasons like Justin did. But Justin Herbert fully deserved to win this Rookie of the Year award. 31 touchdowns in 15 games, threw for, I can't read my own handwriting. I think that's 43 or 4,700 yards. And just 10 interceptions.
4,300 yards.
4,300 yards. Just 10 interceptions. A 98 quarterback rating.
Yep.
I mean, he played great. Sure, they didn't win a lot of games. Not his fault. I think he could have won an MVP if he didn't shave his head.
He had that weird. He had like a weird bowl cut or something. Maybe.
I don't know, man. Apparently he lost the bet to his strength and conditioning coach. Like, God damn it, man. He looked from a guy that likes females. He was beautiful.
Yeah, great, man. He like for coming in the position, for not being the starter, to dealing with is it Tyrod Taylor? Is that the guy's name, right? That had like the punctured lung or whatever happened to him.
I mean, that's another situation that's just so tough and hard
to deal with all this stuff, and you got to try to step in and play these games, and like going from probably
that first game, he didn't even know he was going to play. That happened half an hour before the game started.
Yeah.
So.
And you go in.
No first quarterback reps.
Games. He only did that in 15 games too, 31 touchdowns. So
yeah,
and I mean, wow, dude. I mean, it just really great rookie season, man. He definitely deserves it. So, he had a hell of a year.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, another rookie I kind of want to talk about. I want to talk about the Fitzmagic and Tua situation that the Dolphins had this year. Man, Fitzpatrick was every year, man. He has that magic, man. Oh, he has that magic touch.
Yeah.
I mean, if an organization would have given him the resources and entrusted him, I think he would have had a solid career. It's tough to say. He's been a journeyman all his career, it seems like, and every opportunity, he's had opportunities. Don't get me wrong, he's had opportunities to take that step, and it's come up a little short each time, it feels like. But this year felt different. I mean, they were winning game. They were in spots to win games. They couldn't decide. They start Tua, and if he did bad, then you put Magic in. I didn't like that. I know Tua. You're looking at Tua for the future, but he wasn't showing as. Even in games they won, Tua was not playing well. It was. And how about that? How about? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I just keep talking about this.
I wasn't high on Tua coming out of college anyway.
Yeah, you were more of the guy that's in Philly now.
Hurts.
Yeah, Hurts.
Yeah, I was a Hurts fan college. I didn't understand the whole Tua move to begin with. I think the kid's got a cannon, but as far as everything else, I didn't see the giant appeal. I still don't. I don't. To me, like, it was the same thing. You go back to like the RG3 Andrew Luck situation, right, with Robert Griffin, and that everyone was like super high on Robert Griffin, and I was like, I want Luck. Like, this guy has it right. He has the mentality. He has the know-how to play the position, right? RG3 is more physically gifted.
Oh, for sure.
But Luck knows. It feels like Luck understands the game, and I feel that way about Hurts. Yeah. I feel like Hurts. I think Hurts is gonna, at the end of the year. At the end of it, Hurts might have a better career. I don't know, right? Football is weird. Tua might turn it around. He's a smart enough kid that he can figure it out. But Hurts, I don't know, man. I think Hurts has what it takes. He's just
it's at least easier to see. Yeah,
Philly doesn't fuck him over or not. You never know what that.
They kind of fucked Wentz over, so.
We have different.
I know we definitely have different opinions on Wentz. Maybe it's because back in 2017 I played Madden. I'd always pick him up.
Yeah.
He's always cheap and great for me.
But I feel like Tua is talented. I just don't. I think it's just weird. I mean, you let the kid sit, man. Let him sit behind Fitzpatrick for a year or two, and you let him learn the game.
Even for a year, man.
I know we haven't talked about this a whole lot, but I know I've talked to my brother a bunch about this. Is drafting quarterbacks and starting them right away. You get lucky sometimes. Sometimes you can get a quarterback that is talented and picks up the game and wins games and is good for you. I still think you let them sit. For a year, I still think 2 to 3 is the better outcome. You let them learn offenses. Mainly, you let them learn speed to the game. I think you watch in history how much that pays off. And just in general, what it does for their mental state. Confidence. Let them build the confidence of the league. Let them understand how it works. And offenses, playbooks are way more in depth. Everything is way stronger in the NFL versus college is nothing. Especially for someone like Tua coming from Bama, where they're dominating everybody all the time. It's like playing high school kids when you're a college team. They dominate all the time. And then you go to the pros and you're no longer dominating.
No.
And it's got to be a huge mental strain where you go from always being good to not being good anymore.
Yeah, where you're always in that winning state.
Mm-hmm.
That's
it's gotta suck.
One thing it's
gotta be horrible.
Sure, some people have the gift of when you're on top and being able to stay on top, but when you get put down, the ability to climb back up is always a big factor in everything. That's everything in life. That's football. That's everything. So.
Yeah. But yeah. That's it.
Yeah. How crazy was that? We could talk about a few plays here and there throughout the year. One of the biggest plays I thought of the year was that Fitzmagic pass to beat Oakland while he's getting his head torn off.
Yeah, he freaking
Dude, and he was just Oh man, that was beautiful, man. I've watched that play over and over again,
I'm
man.
surprised that didn't win Play of the Year. Versus, I know Kyler Murray's won.
I know that
to
Hail Mary's always great, and that was a great play to DeAndre
Yeah,
Hopkins
great,
to win the game. But I don't know, maybe they took.
He's getting ripped.
Dude, it was definitely in contention, man. It definitely had to be in contention, and to win the game, and both of them, to win the game. I think the only reason they didn't give it to it because they were facing a coach like Gruden who shouldn't even be coaching. So
yeah.
I don't know what Oakland sees in that guy. I don't know what any.
They love him.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep bringing.
Let's talk about.
How about yeah, we'll slowly start getting into the awards here, but let's talk about runner-up of the MVP this year. First runner-up, anyways, Josh Allen, and what an amazing year he had with the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. Just stellar, man. The kid is just a beast, dude. He, we talk about it a bunch that like how much I like smaller teams, like smaller markets and stuff like that, smaller teams, and how much I wanted Buffalo to win and go just to see him have so much success in that city, man, and with that team. And yeah, I like the kid, man. He's a gunslinger. He sits back there and fucking just picks people apart, and just a really good year, man.
My big thing is, I think we talked about on our first podcast. I talked about how big it was that Buffalo went out and got Stefon Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
And I still believe that. I believe that was an absolute monumental, and that almost changed. Even after year 2. For him, people are still talking about his accuracy and everything, but he is, getting Diggs, getting someone like that to throw to. I mean, that's just. You could see it, and it's cut as day. That is a major difference maker in any team.
Well, having somebody as good as Diggs, man, right? It's the guy was a stud. In Minnesota, man. Mm-hmm. And every time the Packers would play him, I always feared that. I hated playing this because he torched him every time he played the 2 games of the year. I was just like, oh shit, because you knew that he was gonna torch him because he's just always open. He's a good, he's just super talented, and when he went there, I was excited for Allen, man, because Allen had the ability to be good. He just needed a target. He needed somebody that could get open. That's the problem. Is when I don't care how good of a quarterback you are, if somebody can't get open, it is what it is. You still need somebody that can at least give you a target to throw the ball to, right? So you need at least above average, and Stefon Diggs is one of the elite wide receivers in the league. So hell, what do you throw this year? 30, 38 or 39, 30 touchdowns, something like 38, Josh Allen?
I don't know. I should know, shouldn't I?
I'll look it up and get it right. Hold on. I got it in my tabs. I got it.
I can tell you right now.
37.
Damn, I should have said it. I should have pulled the trigger. I would have beat you. I knew it.
37 touchdowns.
Yeah, 37, and I know you talk about, you said gunslinger. Usually when somebody, thinks of a gunslinger, big arm, but usually throwing a lot of touchdowns. Usually, along with that is usually a lot of picks. He only threw 10 interceptions this year. Yeah. So, I mean, as you can see here, also, his completion percentage bumped up from 58.8 to 69.2.
Yeah.
69.
He killed it, dude. Hell of a year, man. Just hell of a year, dude. He was great. Good year.
Solid. Rodgers could do better. He did better.
He did a lot better.
He did a lot better. Talking about Rodgers, let's dig into him. 3rd MVP, man.
3rd, dude.
Number 3.
Oh, man. It's the man. The legend.
He is, man. He certainly is a legend, man. One of the best to always do it. won't be labeled as the GOAT, man. We can kind of already say that. He won't ever be labeled as the GOAT, man. It's be tough for him to be able to do that. He'd have to win the next 3 to even be considered a close call. 3 in a row is huge in football. So I feel like that maybe could put him in the conversation at least, but I don't think he'll ever be considered the GOAT. You could, everybody always makes the consideration as maybe the best quarterback to ever do it. Tom Brady is always going to be in that conversation too, and people are always going to fight with you whether that really differs or not. But how big of a year you think this was for Rodgers personally? How big of a year you think this was for him to stay on track, with them drafting Love? And I don't know.
So you started off like, we talk about how effective he was this year. 70%, right, completion, right, almost 71% completion percentage. His NFL rating or whatever was a 121.5.
Tony's second best.
Huh?
Tony's second best too.
Yeah. He was just super efficient pretty much the whole year. 5 interceptions, man. And then I know I've talked about this a bunch, and how efficient you have to be as quarterbacks. I know quarterbacks have thrown more yards, and they throw these big games, 300 yards, 400 yards. And Rodgers has never had to do that in his career because he doesn't throw interceptions. The guy is super careful with the ball. No. And, there was a lot of drop interceptions this year. There were some close calls. And I think this year he took more risks.
Yeah, for sure.
He threw some passes this year that I normally didn't see, but I think it was just him. Let's try to squeeze one in here. Let's see what happens. But I think he had more trust in his defense than I think I've ever seen him have.
That and in his receivers in balls, kind of. I feel like I saw him throw more go get him balls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Throw them up. That has potential to be caught by the defender, but I feel like I believe in my wide receiver. I believe that he could also play basketball and jump up and catch that.
Yeah, definitely. There were some MVS ones, man, where when he let him go, you look and you watch it, you're like, it's close. And then MVS would just slightly break away, and it would be in his pocket, and you're just done. So, but as far as like he goes, I don't know how much the Jordan Love stuff had to do with it. I really do feel that he talked about it a lot on Pat McAfee that last week, where he said that he would watch the film footage of him pre-injury, and he was doing different mechanics, and he stopped doing that after he got hurt because he was afraid to put a lot of pressure on his legs. So then he got back into squatting and lifting all that weight, and then now he was able to like do that hitch movement he talked about, and that he was able to put more pressure, more power into the deep ball. And that's why you see more deep balls thrown this year versus the last few years where he wasn't throwing a lot of power. And that was what was weird about last year. He missed some balls. I don't feel like he had the zip. He was shorting a lot and stuff. It was a little weird watching him play last year. He didn't look like how Rodgers was. I know we joke, and everyone says it's because he was dating Danica Patrick, and and he wasn't happy and all this stuff. And now he's apparently engaged and he's a happy man, and look how well he's playing, and look at all this stuff. I mean, yeah, that definitely has a lot. And he talked about how much happier he is and relaxed and all this stuff.
Bad it's going to be if he goes on and has a bad year next year.
Oh, yeah.
People are going to... I already feel bad for the girl.
But it's on her, right? Oh, yeah. It's going to be horrible. But, he's been with her for a while now, so... Because I heard about that months and months.
Obviously, I would hope so. They're engaged now, so.
But I mean, he's talking about it all year how much happier he is. So it has to be a lot to do with it, right? I mean, I know personal life is huge with everybody, right? So I'm sure his relationship had to do with it, not being healthy mentally, physically. You're not playing well. His first year with a new coach has a lot to do with it. You're learning new guys. You don't have everything you want. You're fucking just not happy, right? In general, just things aren't doing what you want to do. And then you have a quote off year. What did he throw? 26-4. That's what he had his stats of his touchdowns last year.
And the year before he was 25-2. So.
But he only played
played all 16 games.
He played all 16 games the year before?
Yeah, it was the year before that he was injured. He only played 7
The year
games.
before that he was injured?
Yeah.
The year before that. So the year before that he was 25-2, okay. So, I mean, those are off years, right?
Off years. But that, that brings me back, back when Nick Foles had that year, he threw 25 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions. People were saying how crazy that was, and he made the Pro Bowl, but
yeah, Rodgers doesn't expect. But that's just how it is, right? Because Rodgers has always thrown for 30 plus, right? And he's always had these great years, and he always is outstanding. And when you do that, that's that expectation, right? You set these expectations and you play this fantastic football, and then when you don't throw it, everyone all of a sudden you're washed up. So for him to have the year he had this year, but I called it. I got Nick as my witness on that one. I said it before the year started that I said he was gonna go 46-6. So I said he'd throw 46 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, and
You're pretty close.
Pretty close. I said that just because I thought that I did it for the wrong reasons. I said it's because he'd be angry. I said this. Now he's got to shut everybody up, to be like, look, I still have it. I'm not done. You know what I mean? I'm only 37, maybe 38. You know what I mean? I'm still going to go out here and show you guys that I still have what it takes to be the best quarterback in the league. Now, as far as GOAT status, I talked earlier about like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning watching them play. We went up stats a while back on like quarterbacks, how many touchdowns they've thrown in seasons and things like that. Times are different compared to how they used to be when how many you throw in a game and years and stuff like that. I don't know how you can't argue that Rodgers isn't one of the greatest to ever play the position. I don't think he's the GOAT, but you can't say that he is not at least top 5 of the greatest quarterbacks to ever do it. His stats don't lie. He's the fastest to ever reach 450 touchdowns. Right, his yards, right, to intercept, or his touchdowns to interception ratio is insane. Absolutely,
that's gonna be tough to beat.
He is 412 touchdowns, not 450. Sorry, 400. Fastest reach 400 touchdowns.
I know. I didn't know if he meant like rushing touchdowns too, and I was like, wait, I don't know if he has that many either.
Yeah, I meant 400 touchdowns. So he's 400 touchdowns passes, 412 to 89 interceptions.
If you throw in his playoffs, then he's got over 450. So
yeah, but he's just to do that at his age and how fast he's got there. Like you can't take that away from what he's done, and with the talent level that he's had. He's had some good receivers, good ones, right? Jordy Nelson was good, Greg Jennings was good, right? And Devontae Adams is by far the best that he's ever had. Devontae Adams is elite above. That guy is amazing to watch play.
He was, these past, 2 years.
Yeah.
He hasn't been, as kind of back to that Jefferson. No wide receiver starts like how he started. Adams in his first few years or so, he had a bit of a learning curve to deal with, but as soon as he, he's turned it up, man. It's crazy. He is definitely this past year one of the best for sure.
Yeah, but if you gave him some of the receiving cores that some of these other quarterbacks have had, it's hard to say what he would have done number-wise. If you would have given him Calvin Johnson, it would have been I don't know what he would have done,
Yeah. I think it would have been, we talked about that Randy Moss, played a season for New England, and we saw what that did. Comparatively, Tom Brady hasn't had too many years where he's thrown over 40. This year he did, and somehow wasn't a Pro Bowl. But anyways, that year he did have Moss. He throws 50 touchdowns, right? That was the year he threw 50. I would say something similar to that is if he had something, somebody like that, because when you go back, you were just talking about earlier how Brady hasn't had. Too many guys, at least, to throw to. So.
Yeah, other than Wes Welker.
As receivers,
As receivers.
And you had Edelman there for a little bit as kind of like your check down guy, basically. He's slot, he's really just slot. You can trust him.
Good.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
Good. He's a good receiver. Yeah.
He's not the most explosive. He's not the tallest, not the fastest. But
nothing wrong
you
with
throw a
him.
ball to him, and he's gonna, if you need
Yeah,
it, he's gonna catch it for you. So.
it's good. That's my thing. Is like I don't mean to like discredit any of like these receivers. They're all talented, right? Because they're in the NFL. They're all good. And then you have like talented receivers. Then you have like good receivers, right? Let's not talk about people like Jordy Nelson. Like Jordy Nelson was a hell of a receiver, man. That guy was really good at his position, but he wasn't extremely gifted in every aspect of like some of the other guys were. So definitely
guys would just line up on the other side and see white boy and not even think about it.
Yeah,
and then he'd fucking blow past you, man.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
He'd smoke people, man. Jordy he had great hands, right? So that's what helped a lot. And that's where the confidence came in with Rodgers, is that he knew that most of the time Jordy was going to catch the ball. So, he had some drops, unlike Jerry Rice, who never dropped a pass. And we get Jordy dropped a couple balls, but for the most part, he and then of course, Donald Driver, but he never had like a tight end, and you get into things. But I don't know, man. Rodgers MVP easily this year, closest behind him. My argument, the only person you could have argued to win it was Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You could argue Derrick Henry. I also think you could have argued Mahomes still too. Mahomes played 15 games this year, and they went 14-1. I mean, if he would have played that last game, and they would have won it, he would have had a big game. It'd have been a lot closer. I think either way, Rodgers was winning it. But I think he would have gotten more votes. I think it'd have been closer. But no, I agree. Henry had just an outstanding year.
Man. And that goes into the thing, man. Running backs don't win a lot of trophies, right, for stuff. And for him though, man, just the average 5.4 yards a carry is just that's just insane, man.
That is crazy.
To do what he did is absolutely insane. So I don't know.
Do a bit of a.
He did win offensive player of the year, whatever that means for him.
Yep.
But
we do a bit of a rundown here. So 2,027 yards rushing. Over 1,000 of them were after contact. Yeah. So he would run, those 2-3 yards, get touched, where you would usually get tackled, he'd be at 2-3 yards. No, he'd run another 2-3 yards, Right. Obviously, he would have those big plays. He had 17 rushing touchdowns. He broke 34 tackles this year, which breaking, it's crazy to even break 1 or 2 tackles in a single game. We see some of those big runs, and those are usually the only two. You see, even when Lynch did it, you see him break a couple tackles. Usually that was the only real play, the only tackles he broke. But 34, I mean, he's breaking 2-3 tackles a game, which is nuts. I don't even know if that counts him pushing Josh Norman over into next state. I mean, holy hell. Anyways, that puts him, that 2,000 yards puts him 5th on all time in a single season. It's 126.7 yards a game rushing. Last week of the year, 250 on the dot, man. That's nuts. 250 on the dot.
Another one too, man, is that he had 16 rushes over 20 yards, and then he had 4 over 40.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he had 3 games. He had 3 games over 200 yards.
Yeah.
Other than that 250.
His longest one was that 94-yard one.
Yep, he had a 94-yard one. I think 2 years ago he had a 99-yard one. That was kind of his breakout.
He's so big and he's so quick too. You just think a guy that big and that physical.
So usually, when you see a running back and his offensive linemen, running back smaller, offensive linemen are taller. That's always how it is. Same fucking height, man. That is crazy.
Just. Oh God.
It's like, wait, where's the running back? I see 6 linemen. What the heck?
Yeah, he's scary, man.
He's scary, big man. And to put on top of it, he only lost 2 fumbles this year. I think he had 3. Only lost 2.
3 fumbles, only lost 2. Yeah.
That is, I mean,
he's a monster, man. Do we? I know to get off.
So he won Offensive Rookie of the Year, Or no, sorry, offensive
Offensive
player of the year. Sorry,
yeah.
but yeah, doing a quick run out. You okay? I just want to make sure you agree with Smith winning comeback player of the year.
Yeah.
Okay, for sure. Okay. Did you want to say something else on Henry?
No, that was it. Just you know, beast mode, dude. He's
For
a monster, man. He's a
sure.
monster.
For sure. Okay. So we got defensive rookie of the year. We'll go over that one first.
Chase Young.
Chase Young won it.
Yeah, deserved
Um,
it.
you think he deserved it? I do too, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
He did. I mean, he willed that. Again, we talked about Redskins making it. He willed that defense.
Yeah. Yeah,
He's another one of those guys where I feel like he could be a really good leader, and he can really, make that team something great. Another player to look at. I don't know if you know Jeremy Chin played for the Panthers. He had a hell of a year. He game against Vikings, one of the biggest highlights defensively for any player. Back-to-back plays, fumble recovery touchdowns against them. Imagine that, fumbling the ball, having a guy pick it up and running back for a touchdown. It's like, shit, well, they're kicking the ball. Let's try this again. Very next play. Same guy, too. Same guy being like,
it's going to be rough.
Thank you.
Rough. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that guy, deserved lots of props. Hell of a player, hell of a young guy. He's going to be one of the best backfielders to do it. Talk about. So I think that leaves us with just defensive player of the year. Oh, before we get to that, I know that's kind of a big conversation. So Browns won the coach. Browns head coach won the coach of the year. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Bring the dog pound to the playoffs and win a playoff game. Even if you don't consider playoffs into that, I mean, either way.
Yeah, no.
Hell of a job. Finally got, a coach. Finally got a quarterback. Got the Browns team going, man. They're gonna be a bit competitive years to come, man, for sure.
I think so.
So yeah, let's get into this defensive player of the year award. Probably the most controversial, I think, out of all the awards. Mainly because it was basically between Aaron Donald and TJ Watt. So Aaron Donald's what ended up coming away with the reward, despite when you look at straight paper, straight statistics, it looks like TJ Watt. I mean, how do you not pick TJ Watt if you're just looking at paper, I should say. I want to keep that in mind. I'll run it down. So tackles, TJ 53, Donald 41, sacks. TJ had 15, Aaron Donald had 13.5. Tackles for loss, 23 for Watt, 12 for Donald. Pressures, 55 for Watt, 42 for Donald. Quarterback hits, 41 for Watt, 26 for Donald. Forced fumbles, 2 for Watt, 4 for Donald. And pass defenses, 7 for Watt, 1 for Donald. Interceptions, 1 for Watt, 0 for Donald. Those are the major ones. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's hard, dude, because
both on winning teams. Both teams made the playoffs. It's hard. You definitely can't say Donald was the only defensive player on that Rams team. That Rams defense is, what Rodgers was able to do is, that's even more testament to Rodgers was able to do against that defense. But nobody, I felt like, was as scared against the Pittsburgh defense, despite having Watt. Obviously Watt's always TJ Watt's going to be a focal point whenever we face him. But I feel like the reason he was able to get those stats was maybe because there wasn't as much help. You think that could be the case?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's probably because a lot of people just didn't look at him maybe as much. You look at that team, the whole focus on that team and who that team is and how bad that offense was compared to that defense for Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? So Pittsburgh, their offense was good, right? Their offense gets all that glory, right? So it's Big Ben and blah 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 and all this shit that they get, and their defense was good, and you get all this other stuff where you get out there to the Rams, it's only their defense, and that's all that matters because it's legitimately the only reason why they won games, is their defense is just that dominant. Period. Right. So it's I don't know if you have the stats ready to look at what was their rank, the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive rank.
Yeah, I can bring that up.
Because because that might have a lot to do with it too, as far as like why is like where they placed that in the year. Because
okay. Whoops.
Defensive
rank.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ooh. Pittsburgh's defense was ranked number 3 this year.
Number 3.
And oh boy, going too far down the list.
Yeah, see, I don't know, man, because that's hard to.
Oh, that's because I already passed them. Yeah, LA Rams ranked 1, Pittsburgh
Rams
ranked 3.
1. Yeah, I
okay.
knew that.
So yeah, I mean they're both top 3 defenses.
And you just at that point you just go with the best defense and the biggest player on that defense at that point, I guess. So, Ramsey's.
You think
good, but
okay, that bring that
showed you that Packer game showed you when Donald is hurt and doesn't play as efficient or every snap like he could have if he was fully healthy. I don't know how much that Packer Rams game changes if he's 100%. Because you could see it in the game. He couldn't pressure. He didn't get a lot of pressure. He couldn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't. There was nowhere near 100%. I don't even know if he was 50%, man, because he didn't look anywhere near the same at all. And he was still getting a little bit of pressure there.
Yeah, but, and you could see, and I would argue that the Rams front, as good as Tampa Bay's front played, you could argue the Rams front is better. And yet, it seemed like the Packers were able to hold them better than the Tampa Bay's.
I think a lot of that had to do with schemes, though. I think a lot of that had to do with I can't remember the defensive coordinator right now and for the Tampa Bay, but the way that he brought up the schemes and the stuff that they were doing, man, whatever they were doing, it was confusing the shit out of that offense.
Todd Bowles.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta put some respect on his name. I know I didn't say it earlier, so.
They were just, man, switching and moving and doing things and stuff to him, where I feel like the Rams, it was the same thing the whole game. And I felt like it was pretty easy for them to kind of adjust to and move around, where Tampa, it was always felt like it was different. It was like they were always adjusting to it and they could never really get a grasp on it. So, but as far as these guys go, I feel like you're going to give it to the guy that probably gets more publicity, right? And
I feel like that always happens for any reward.
It's
publicity is such a big thing in any words, and that's any sport too. I feel like that's not just football. That's basketball, baseball, hockey, anything. Yeah. I mean, so
definitely. It's hard. I mean, Watt deserves the credit, dude, and it sucks that he didn't get it. And I could see the argument for it. Stats and the way he played and stuff, but I don't. It's a little rough, but it is what it is.
It's rough. I mean, there's I think Roger said it on the McAfee show that people already view Donald as one of the best to ever, if not, well, I think he said the best to ever play his position.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I think it was a close call. Obviously, lots of people disagree. Obviously, J.J. Watt disagrees. I mean, how could he not? I mean, obviously he would.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely one of the best defensive tackles ever to play. I also agree. Donald's been helping that Rams team for quite some time now. This is his third Defense Player of the Year award. I think I saw award. So
yeah, he's a beast, man. He's just Yeah. I just it's crazy, man. That just like stat wise though, it's Watt had just a really great year. So it's hard, man. It's hard to I don't know. That's a rough one, man.
Oh, for sure.
But it is what it is, and it just a lot of people get snubbed, man. You're gonna have your arguments for mostly all of it. So
Yeah, everybody. There's always someone. I mean, you know, I think the biggest Pro Bowl snub this year was definitely Tom Brady. Threw 40 touchdowns, and I mean, we could go. I said that. I think I'm pretty sure I brought up that argument last week. That how do you vote for the Pro Bowl, even though it's held after the regular season's over,
yeah,
through 12 weeks or something?
mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah, it's not.
ridiculous.
Well, that's the same thing too. I mean, there's so many of those guys that I mean, even it's just a dumb dude. That's a dumb thing because Tom had a great year, and you don't. The Pro Bowl voting is dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb. It is what it is. All right. There's much as far as the other awards. You would Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, we can get. Yeah, let's finally get to the Hall of Fame.
Most of the ones I don't really care about. Most of the guys on there. Manning got in. I'm not surprised.
Well, yeah, I think he should have been first ballot.
Um,
Same thing with Woodson.
Woodson, man, that guy said it the other day, man.
I know. We've been kind of.
Water covers 70% Earth. Charles Woodson covers the rest.
Yeah, we've been memeing that.
Yeah, I love it.
All week it seems like, or ever since I realized that was a thing, man.
Charles
Ashamed of
Woodson,
myself as a Packer
one of
fan that I
my-
didn't know that was a thing. But I'm young, so.
Rodgers talked about it one time that he said that Charles Woodson was the best football player he'd ever seen play the game, and that's who he said was watching people. He said Woodson was the best. There was nobody better, and then that until he watched Devontae Adams play, and now so it's like to say that is crazy, right? Woodson, to me, is one of my favorite players I've ever watched play the game. That guy is just, for me, watching him was amazing. I put them in that league with like Donald Driver and stuff to watch a player play the game was amazing. So I was happy to see him get in. Calvin Johnson deserves it. We talked earlier about people who changed the game and dominance in the game. Calvin Johnson, dude, when he's on the field, there's nobody better on the field than that guy.
Yeah,
he's
that
the best field.
reminds me of back when Aaron Rodgers had the Hail Mary for the win against the Lions. That was back when they still had Calvin, and a lot of people were wondering why in the world they didn't have him out there, just because of how great of a football player he is. It doesn't matter that he plays offense. You put that guy down in the end zone, it doesn't matter what side of the ball he's playing. He's going for the ball.
Mm-hmm. He's there to catch it. He's going to catch that ball. It's a Hail Mary. He's going to be the tallest one and the biggest one up. And more than likely, if he's not catching it, he's going to knock it away.
Okay.
Or he's going to do something with it. Yeah, dude. Yeah. Calvin Johnson is, once again in my life, watching people play the game. When he's on the field, he's the scariest one, most dominant one to catch the ball. The dude, he was a monster. So happy to see him get in it. He deserves to be in that position to be recognized as one of the greatest. John Lynch is what it is. John Lynch is John Lynch. He's a good football player. He good safety. He had a really long career, good career. He was always consistent with what he did. You knew the kind of football player you were going to get. So a couple of the other guys, the old school guys, the offensive lineman got in. Looked him up a little bit. Good career. Head coach Tom Flores. I don't know much about him. So, and then the guy I wanted to touch on was Drew Pearson. He's a wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. Been snubbed forever, man, forever. That guy had been invited and finalist and a bunch of times, man. So Drew Pearson played in the 70s.
Yeah, I see that.
He was it's hard to look at his stats and say, oh, Drew Pearson had this.
No, yeah, I was just about to say that, to have 1,000-yard receiving in the 70s, I mean, that's like having 1,600 yards this year, man.
Yeah, he played with damn, I'm blanking on it. It's I
The
can't remember.
quarterback.
Now, yeah, Starbuck, and
Uh,
but he was dominant, man.
yeah, Starbuck. Roger.
Star,
Yep.
so he was like he wore number 88, right? And he was like the first 88. Before all these other guys were 88, he was 88, and he was just dominant back then, dude. And like you watch, so like I grew up watching these old school NFL films tapes like with my dad and stuff, and he was one of those receivers. And you watch, and Jerry Rice talked about when one of his heroes was him, it was Drew Pearson, Lynn Swann, and these guys that he idolized. And when you talk about the legend of Jerry Rice, and if he idolized them, he's got to be a freaking hero, right? He's got to be a beast. So for him not to get a Hall of Fame his whole life and then to finally get it in the senior class, it's a joke and it's a travesty that he had to wait this long. So I don't know if you watched. So last year he got snubbed and he had his whole family there and he was pissed. He's slamming on the table and he was like, they screwed me over, and he was mad, and it was just, it's upsetting to see, man, that they took him all these years to get it to this guy that was so dominant in the 70s. He's all decade team, 3-time all team. And it's like there's only, I think, a couple other receivers that have stats that he has to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And it's
Now,
just not.
does the NFL have like? I haven't looked as much into it as I probably should have, but does the NFL have like only a certain amount of people that can make the Hall of Fame each year?
Yeah,
How do they do
it's
that?
like 5, I think.
See, that's ridiculous. First of all, you should be able to make it or not make it. As he said last year, there shouldn't be anybody snubbed. There shouldn't be anybody making it that shouldn't make it.
Yeah.
But looking at here, he also played his first 5 years in the NBA or NFL. Was back, those 70s where they played just 14 games. So, and one of his 1,000-yard receiving years was when he only played 14 games. So, I mean, that even adds on to it. He caught 48 touchdowns throughout his career, 7,800 yards.
Yeah. In the 70s, man. And that's what one thing people some of the younger people have like brought up. Oh, he didn't have great stats. The dude he was a monster. You just go watch highlight footage of that man. He smoked everybody, man. It was like Hike, and that dude was gone. He just dominant, dude. He was super talented. So to finally see him get in for whatever reason, it's just nice to see that guy get recognized. I know to talk about before, Dion talking about people that changed the game. He's the guy that changed the game because you had legends that looked up to him. So without him, would these other guys have been as more influenced,
Dude threw 3 touchdowns too.
Even better. Can't take away that. That's awesome. Yeah, so I just wanted to touch on that, man. I'm happy to see him to get in there, dude, because that's you like to see some of the legends of the game finally get recognized. So you got to remember some of those guys that played in the 70s, man. That was a different time of the game. So
yeah,
for people, man, go watch that guy, Drew Pearson. Look up highlights of that dude, the 70s, and that's a different football era. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, you got anything else for NFL 2019, 2020
No, man.
Or 2020, 2021, sorry, season? It was quite a year. I know we talked about it, man.
I'm disappointed Packers didn't win the Super Bowl, but at least they made it.
You're going to be disappointed every year then.
Yep. So I'm happy they made it to the NFC Championship, man.
Yeah,
I'm
for sure.
Rodgers' performance, man. MVP. At this point, man, in my life with football and the way I view the game and the way it's developed, and I'm more of just watching Aaron Rodgers and wanting him to have like successful games and players that I like, watching them be successful more than the organization and stuff like that. So at this point, I just like watching players play and seeing how they do and stuff. So as the whole year, I liked it. I liked watching highlights. I liked watching the people. It was fun, man. We'll see what next year brings. The offseason should be fun. A lot of players are free agents. Might see some quarterback moves. Should be interesting to see what happens.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think anything else has happened since our last show. So.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I really don't think, as it kind of carries on, I don't think Watson's going to get moved.
Yeah, I don't. It doesn't
The
look
more
like.
sound, more it keeps getting brought up, less it seems like it's gonna happen. So.
Mm, yeah, I don't think I have anything else, man.
Well, next week we have yet to decide. We need to decide soon so we can
Yeah,
have an actual show. But
that's
we're
gonna
not doing football, so
and no more football.
no more
Football's not
football.
about until something happens, right? Until
Yeah, so we can actually put a show on for it. Um, but it was fun.
Um,
Um, so if you could just keep carrying on, I guess.
yeah, all right.
Like and
Cool.
subscribe if you enjoyed it. I mean, we're enjoying this for ourselves, man.
Yeah,
I guess if you don't want to like and subscribe, you could fuck off. I could care less. It don't
yeah,
matter to
it is
me.
what it is.
Hit the dislike button.
Hit
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Peace.
It doesn't. See you later, guys.